1999 marked the third year of the Australian Rally Super Series, a series where flat-out driving decided the winner. Tough Australian conditions and an amazing high level of professionalism make this one of the toughest domestic competitions in the world. Cars from 10 manufacturers strived for victory across the championship classes. 7 events would see teams visit 5 states and the ACT. The Drivers' Championship was decided over the 5-round Super Series. Beginning in Coffs Harbour, the series travelled to the Sunshine Coast, Perth, Melbourne and Hobart. 2 international rallies, the Asia Pacific Championship FAI Rally of Canberra and the World Championship Rally Australia in Perth, counted towards the coveted Manufacturers' Championship. The excitement would begin on the New South Wales North Coast. Coffs Harbour welcomed 76 crews for the opening round. Consistent rain made the normally fast, dry, dusty roads extremely slippery. Rain was to continue throughout the series. 3 times Australian Rally champions Possum Bourne and Craig Vincent debuted the Subaru Impreza World Rally car. The arrival of the Impreza WRC now meant the Australian Rally Championship had 2 of the latest machines from the World Championship. Bourne in his Subaru and Neil Bates and Coral Taylor in their Toyota Corolla World Rally car blusted around the opening super stage at Coffs Harbour Showground in equal time. In the forests, the roads were treacherous. A major step up in performance in the Sanyo F2 Cup for 1999 with inclusion of the kit car version of the Volkswagen Golf in the hands of Simon Evans and Jason Slott. Despite a spin, Simon and Sue Evans in their all-new Golf kit car were able to rejoin the Formula 2 Sanyo Cup battle. However, in between stages, their car came to a stop.
We've actually run out of fuel. The gauge is showing 30 litres in the tank, but she's obviously wrong. The pumps are dry. She's just singing away and there's nothing happening.
The service crew refueled the car in an illegal area. Their opponents in no doubt they had broken the rules.
I don't want to protest, but it'd be better for them to withdraw because I know they've broken the rules, and it's the same for everybody.
In the production class, Stuart Reid and Anthony McLaughlin established a handy break over Cody Crocker and Greg Folletta. Bourne took the first forest stage by 1 second and held a 5-second advantage over Bates going into the 27-kilometre Arrawarra stage. Arrawarra features huge jumps through banana plantations. Bates took the stage by 8 seconds to lead by 3. The final stages of the day provided plenty of drama. Simon Evans was caught out in the slippery conditions. The major casualty was Cody Crocker, caught out in a downpour on the final stage, his car thumping a tree. Stuart Reid continued to attack on the final stages to take the Windscreens O'Brien Privateers Cup and the production car class from Mark Haybettle and Kim Martin, John Mitchell and Cole Trinder third. Simon Evans first across the line in the Formula 2 Sanyo Cup, but officially withdrew from the heat for the refuelling infringement. Both Rick Bates and Brett Middleton showed plenty of experience to finish first and second, with third place going to Tony and David McFarlane. In the race for outright, the final 2 stages promised a classic battle between Possum Bourne and Neil Bates. Gearbox problems for Bates robbed the event of a straight-out race to the line. The problem caused by the sudden change in road conditions throughout the stages.
I picked Arrawarra as the stage that would make and break today, and you know, realistically that could have been true, except for and we had a gearbox problem.
There was to be one last drama, as Bourne was caught out on the same slippery bend which claimed teammate Crocker. The team leader was able to get his car back on the road and go on to win the opening heat by 53 seconds.
I'm pretty happy to get to the end, I tell you. That's got to be the hardest 20 points I ever had to earn.
22 of the 76 crews failed to finish Heat 1, but there was to be no Sunday shootout. Worsening conditions forced organisers to make the hardest of cancellation decisions for the second leg. It was the first time in the 3-year history of the Australian Rally Championship Super Series that an entire heat had been cancelled. And it was also the first time an Australian Rally Championship event had had an entire competitive leg cancelled. The crews may have left Coffs Harbour early, but ahead lay one of the biggest events on the Australian Rally Championship calendar, the FAI Rally of Canberra. The 1999 FAI Rally of Canberra marked the return of full-scale international rallying on Australia's east coast after nearly 20 years. Part of the prestigious Asia-Pacific Championship, the event attracted 48 starters, including entries from Japan, Scotland, Malaysia, New Caledonia and New Zealand. Australasia's two leading competitors, Neil Bates and Possum Bourne, quickly settled into a tight battle. It was to end very early for Bates and co-driver Coral Taylor. Their Toyota Corolla World Rally car ran over a branch and punctured a hole in the radiator on just the third stage of the event.
Got a problem? What is it? Hole in the radiator.
The car made it to the service point, but refused to start.
I'm not sure what it is, a hole in the radiator. I don't know if it was a rock, a stick or whatever, but she ain't going now.
Bourne and Craig Vincent had an early comfortable lead over the Impreza of Dom Buckley and Neil Ewing of Scotland. However, on the very next stage, the Subaru Impreza World Rally Car driver accidentally activated the speed limiter, which is used on the transport sections. The Scotsman was now on Bourne's tail. Ed Ordinsky made a welcome return to the production car section with a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 5. A great battle raged between Ordinsky and Ian Stewart and Rally Art teammates Katsu Taguchi and Ron Teo. Cody Crocker and Mark Stacey dropped back, breaking the drive shaft of their Impreza on a large jump. Gearbox problems developed for Japanese legend Monster Tajima and co-driver Ross Runnels. Their Suzuki Baleno kit car was well behind the Volkswagen Golf of Simon and Sue Evans. The final epic super stage attracted a massive crowd to watch side-by-side rally action. After a dry, dusty opening leg, the second day began wet and cold. Dramas arose for Bourne when he had trouble starting the WRC Impreza. As if the 1-minute time penalty was not bad enough, problems with the heated windscreen gave he and co-driver Craig Vincent next to no vision. Not surprisingly, the Subaru spun in the tricky conditions. The wet weather was like a homecoming for Dom Buckley, who was matching Bourne. His spectacular style eventually cost him, as he too crashed out of the rally. Ed Ordinsky's handy lead in the production car section was diminishing. Gearbox problems and the determination of Katsu Taguchi and Cody Crocker saw the three drivers close within sight of each other. That lead would last only to the second stage of the final day, when he drove the final 7 kilometres with a punctured front right tyre.
Just in the mud was apexing the crests really close, as you have to, slightly backing it into a corner with a bank on the inside and there must have been a rock or something dislodged at the base of the bank.
Ordinsky's problems gave his Rally Art teammate Taguchi victory in the production car section, Cody Crocker third. It was a very nervous Simon Evans who kept his car intact on the final day to score his and Volkswagen's first Asia-Pacific round victory.
It's fantastic. We didn't know what the outcome would be. We just came here with the open mind of, well, let's go and give it a go and see where we place.
Possum Bourne began the final day with a seemingly unassailable 6.5-minute lead over Yoshihiro Karaoke. But with the pressure off, Possum made a simple but costly mistake, cutting one corner too close. Bourne managed to complete the 22-kilometre stage, but lost some 9 minutes in the process.
We thought we were out because the wheel was right in that, but we jacked it up, pulled the wheel off and thought, oh, we might be able to get it to couple it together, so we pulled it straight out and mucked it around and put it back in and bolted it up, and the tyre was still rubbing on the spring plate, but we got going.
Karaoke's consistent approach paid off, the Japanese driver winning on his Canberra debut. Bourne came a frustrated second, Taguchi third outright. Australian-based crews now switch their attention back to the Super Series and round 2, the Falcon Tyres Rally Queensland. The 1999 Australian Rally Super Series arrived on the Sunshine Coast for round 2, the Falcon Tyres Rally Queensland. Determined to head back after gearbox problems at round 1 in Coffs Harbour and a blown motor at the Asia-Pacific Rally of Canberra, Neil Bates and Coral Taylor in their Toyota Corolla World Rally car attacked the opening stages to lead the Subaru Impreza World Rally car of Possum Bourne and Craig Vincent by 3 seconds. After a non-finish at round 1, Cody Crocker and Greg Folletta swung straight into action in Queensland, putting their WRX in the lead. Round 1 winners Stuart Reid and Anthony McLaughlin were in touch early before cooking the engine of their brand new Evolution 6 Mitsubishi Lancer. With Ed Ordinsky skipping the Queensland event, Crocker was now in the box seat. Asia-Pacific Formula 2 points leaders Simon and Sue Evans quickly settled into the lead in the Sanyo Cup, leading the Honda of Brett Middleton and Andrew Benefield. Rick Bates and Jenny Britton had to cope with rising temperature in their Daihatsu in third. Neil Bates was confident he had a big enough margin going into the opening legs afternoon stages. Then he stalled the Corolla on the line, and Possum Bourne was set to take advantage. Amazingly, Bates lost the stage by just 2 seconds before Bourne took the next stage by 1 to trail by 11, going into the final Noosa Hill Climb. The hill climb stage was influenced by 2 key factors, the unaccustomed tarmac and heavy rain. Bourne claimed the stage by 4 seconds, but Bates had won the opening leg by 7.
Today was great, you know, we built up a lead this morning and then just, you know, maintained that this afternoon and really enjoyed it. It's good fun.
Crocker won the production car section from charging locals John Guazdaway and Glenn Weston. Simon Evans once again showed the speed of the Volkswagen Golf, winning the Sanyo F2 Cup from Brett Middleton and Rick Bates.
The aim for the rally was not to put a scratch on it, so we've done half the rally now and it's we've come along with the goods, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Heavy overnight rain made tyre choice for Sunday's second leg critical. Both Neil Bates and Possum Bourne chose to run a special narrow mud tyre. On the opening stage, the 2 drivers tied before Bates grabbed 1 second on each of the next 2. No problems for Cody Crocker. He once again set about chasing the production class win. The tricky conditions were a challenge for the Sanyo Cup cars. Simon Evans was not falling back, however, leading the way from Brett Middleton and Rick Bates. With the roads remaining unpredictable, both Possum Bourne and Neil Bates stayed with mud tyres. The Subaru driver, however, made an adjustment to the car's handling, and it would make the difference. He took 5 seconds on the second last stage to lead by 3. On the final stage of the Falcon Tyres Rally Queensland, he was in the groove and grabbed an amazing 9 seconds to win the heat by 12.
The car was a bit difficult to get turned in the way I had it set up, but once you got it into the corner. If you didn't back off, it was fine. So you had to commit yourself pretty hard and then go.
With positions switched from the opening leg, Bourne and Bates came away with equal points for the round. It was the first time since the inception of the Super Series in 1997 that an event had been tied. Cody Crocker was in cruise mode over the final two stages, but still had two major dramas. Firstly, he ran wide.
Oh. That's all right, you're safe. Cool. 7 left opens.
And then, just kilometres from the finish, he nearly hit a kangaroo.
This has been a good event for us because we've got maximum points.
David Hills and Sophie Handley came second in the production class and first in the Windscreens O'Brien Privateers Cup. Simon Evans repeated his Canberra victory, dominating the small car class in Queensland in the Volkswagen Golf kit car. As crews prepared to head across the country to Perth for the Respect Yourself Forest Rally, their only request was that finally clear skies would greet them.
Everybody's looking for something. Step right up and tell me what it's all about.
Rain once again played its part. Bossomborn and Craig Vincent went into the Perth event with a slender 4-point championship lead over rivals Neil Bates and Coral Taylor. From the outset, the Subaru and Toyota teams were on maximum attack on the damp ball-bearing gravel. Bourne, now fully comfortable with the new World Rally Car version of the Impreza, strung together stage wins to lead the Corolla. Ed Ordinsky and Ian Stewart were back into the fray as they joined the Australian Rally Super Series, but on roads where Ordinsky is the unquestioned master, the multiple Australian production car champion was under attack from defending Group N title holders and series leaders Cody Crocker and Greg Folletta. The fight was on from the outset. Predictably, the veteran Ordinsky showed his young rival the way during the opening stages, but it was not to last. The Sanyo F2 ranks had been depleted in Perth. Rick Bates, Brett Middleton, Lee Peterson and Jeff Kilbride all chose not to make the long journey across the country. It proved to be a costly error because after dominating the previous two events, Volkswagen team leaders Simon and Sue Evans blew their motor during a shakedown test, and Jason Slott and Will Logan did the same on stage 3.
We're out, mate. And 100.
Incredibly, this gave Dunlop Corolla Cup champion Steve Forsberg and co-driver Stuart Percival a fantastic opportunity as they found themselves in first place. The West Australian stages are a mixture of high-speed open roads and tighter, rougher tracks. Neil Bates was struggling in the tighter sections, his Corolla failing to turn through one bend. It was found to have broken the front differential, meaning any fight with Bossomborn on that day was over. Bourne charged through the final stages to secure Heat 1 victory over Bates by 55 seconds.
I was very, very happy at the end of the second to last stage, you know. I got there and I turned to Craig and I says, we got our car back. It's starting to work properly now.
After a monster effort, Cody Crocker went into the opening heat's final stage just 6 seconds behind Ed Ordinsky. On a win or crash challenge, he left the road. The excursion cost him 7 seconds, and it was a delighted Ordinsky who took victory in the production car section and third place outright.
I think with Group N, you know, part of the problem is you've got to be
really neat and tidy to get the good times, and it's a fine line in this Western Australian slippery ball bearings to be neat and tidy enough to be quick, but aggressive enough to be fast.
There was no bigger smile than the one on the face of Steve Forsberg, the Dunlop Corolla Cup driver winning his first Sanyo Formula 2 Cup heat. Heavy overnight rain made tyre choice extremely tough for Leg 2. Possumbourne bravely charged through the fastest stage in Australian rallying, Dale Long, to grab an initial 8-second break. Neil Bates fought back on the next two stages, but then overshot a corner and finished the stage 11 seconds behind Bourne. Bourne capitalised. He finished the day 26 seconds up on Bates.
That 8 seconds we got in the first stage really gave us a good break, and I think put a lot of pressure on. It's hard to get 8 seconds back when the cars are so close.
Cody Crocker was electrifying. The Subaru driver won the opening stage by 7 seconds, a massive psychological blow to Ordinsky. On a charge, he nearly threw it all away on the Gorrie stage with a hair-raising spin.
Keep going, go, go, go. We managed to get the break on Ed in the first stage, which is where he took a lot of time off us yesterday, so we're really happy with that. And we built up a little bit of a buffer. Unfortunately, we just lost it all on that last stage, and we had an extremely exciting spin. We went a full 360 on a road about this narrow.
Crocker showed plenty of maturity to put the incident behind him. He was to defeat Ordinsky by 16 seconds on the day, a major effort in Perth. A great battle was underway in the Sanyo F2 Cup. Heat 1 winner Steve Forsberg under attack from Bevan Phillips and Bill Hayes. The win would fall the way of Phillips, just 4 seconds ahead of Forsberg. Incredibly, Simon Evans was now in third place in the Sanyo Cup. A production class Toyota Corolla was leading, Forsberg also leading the Dunlop Corolla Cup. In the production class, the split decision between Crocker and Ordinsky gave the Subaru driver the upper hand in the points standings. Ordinsky in third position behind David Hills. And in outright, Bourne's victory in both heats in Perth gave him a decisive advantage in the battle for the Australian Rally Super Series. But with the worst results to be dropped and bonus points on offer at the final round in Tasmania, the battle was still on. Subaru's lead in the outright and production car section gave it a 21-point advantage over Mitsubishi in the Manufacturers' Championship. Toyota moved ahead of Volkswagen in third place. The Australian Rally Super Series headed back across country for the final two events of the year, beginning with the Rally of Melbourne. Poor weather in the Australian Rally Super Series continued at round 4, the Rally of Melbourne. Rain and even snow had fallen on this course, making the roads extremely slippery, a decisive moment for the championship. First to come unstuck were championship contenders Neil Bates and Coral Taylor, who rolled the Toyota Corolla World Rally car out of Heat 1 on only the second stage.
Basically, I just came into this right-hander a bit too quick, got wide and clipped the bank, and then went into I think it actually rolled twice.
Possumbourne and Craig Vincent now had an unchallenged lead, and cautious driving became the order of the day. There was no chance to relax for Ed Ordinsky or Cody Crocker, though. The two production class rivals were on maximum attack. The slippery conditions closed up the field in the Sanyo Formula 2 section. Simon and Sue Evans coming under attack from defending Formula 2 champion Rick Bates and Jenny Britton and the 97 champ Brett Middleton and Andrew Benefield. Possum-born Subaru Impreza World Rally car was comfortably in the lead going into the snow-lined Ben Cam stage. Then the impossible happened. And after the opening section on tarmac, the road switched to icy gravel, and Bourne incredibly crashed.
Just as we came to this right-hander here, you could see that it was just all snow with just two tracks, and got as much speed off as I could, and I got round the right-hander all right, and when we went to go left, the back just snapped round and I couldn't get it back, and we clipped that stump.
Cody Crocker and Ed Ordinsky were now fighting for outright victory in the opening heat. Unfazed by his teammates' crash, Crocker stretched the legs of the Subaru on the Ben Can stage and grabbed a 5-second lead. The final 800-metre dash around Healesville Showground was dramatic. Ed Ordinsky and Ian Stewart could manage a time just 2 seconds quicker than Crocker. Victory to the Subaru, the first outright victory for Crocker and the first for a production car in an Australian Rally Championship event since Ed Ordinsky at Rally Australia 1995.
It's been a bit of a dream day, really. We've had sort of a few moments ourselves and been pretty lucky with them and not come off the road, whereas Possum came off on a really tricky bit of road. It just turned to snow, so there wasn't really much chance.
Rick Bates gave Simon Evans a scare in Formula 2, but the fast sections of the final stages suited the Volkswagen Golf of Evans a little better. He beat Bates by just 9 seconds. The news of Bourne's crash quickly filtered to the determined Toyota crew, which got Neil Bates to the start line of day 2. Bourne was a non-starter. The Corolla driver quickly seized the opportunity and quickly established a lead over Ed Ordinsky and Cody Crocker. Simon Evans keen to give himself as big a margin as possible in Formula 2. Total commitment saw him pull away from Rick Bates and Brett Middleton. Neil Bates' Toyota Corolla may not have been 100%, but it was more than enough to seize victory in the second heat.
When we rolled yesterday, we thought that was it for our Australian Rally Championship, and then Possum had his dramas yesterday afternoon, and that's put us right back into contention. So now it goes down to the wire in Tasmania, and obviously that's going to be a pretty tough fight.
Cody Crocker pushed hard to bridge the gap to Ed Ordinsky. However, a collision with an embankment punctured the right front tyre and ended the battle with the Mitsubishi driver.
I guess if we had a downfall all weekend, it was that I took a mud tyre for the last pair of stages in Heat 1 and wore them out on the first one of those. But, you know, we played our best shots, and today we didn't make that mistake and just had the edge.
Simon Evans demonstrated the Volkswagen Golf was back in championship calculations as he recorded a speed of 190 kilometres an hour through the Ben Can speed trap, faster than Bates' World Rally car. Wins in both heats ahead of Rick Bates and Brett Middleton pushed him back to the head of F2 standings.
Well, we set out to come first in both heats. We had to make up a points gap in the championship, and the only way to do it was to come first both times, and of course we've achieved it now, so we're pretty happy about it.
For the first time in 1999, John and Damien Long won a heat of the Windscreens O'Brien Privateers Cup. No one was happier than Cody Crocker and Greg Folletta in Melbourne. Cumulative points gave them the first overall victory for a production car in a Super Series event. The final round of the Australian Rally Super Series would be the Saxon Safari outside Hobart. With all major titles still on the line, a classic end to this series was guaranteed. The Saxon Safari was held later in the season than previous years, and it delivered, finally, clear skies. In a classic grand final matchup, and with the worst result of the series to be dropped, Bourne held the upper hand. Put simply, Bates had to win to take the title. The two drivers tied the first super stage at the Derwent Entertainment Centre. Then Bourne and Craig Vincent grabbed a 2-second lead on the first Forest stage. Trying to hit back on the demanding Blue Gum stage, Bates and Coral Taylor spun. Bourne took a decisive 29-second advantage. The stage was marred by the most serious accident the Australian Rally Championship had seen in many years. Windscreens O'Brien Privateers Cup leader Stuart Reid lost control of his Mitsubishi Lancer on a fast downhill section. The incident destroyed a television camera, with the operator, Ben Storer, escaping with only bruising. Reid and co-driver Michelle Murphy were hospitalised with concussion, while Reid underwent surgery for a fractured arm. In the production car section, Ed Ordinsky and Ian Stewart had the jump on Cody Crocker and Greg Folletta. With the championship on the line, Crocker held back his urge to attack on the following stages and conserved his safe second placing. Simon and Sue Evans were out to strengthen their grip on the Sanyo Cup, winning the opening stages from Brett Middleton and Andrew Benefield, with Lee Peterson and Graham Legstoker third. In just the second outing for the Proton team, Matthew Knox and Elio Della Maddalena attacked the opening stages. Overcommitment to one bend beached the Satria off the road for 20 minutes. The long afternoon stages were a classic battle between Bourne and Bates. The Toyota Corolla driver took the fourth stage by 5 seconds. Bourne grabbed back 3 before a tie on stage 6. Any hope of Bates storming to victory on the final stage was dashed when he punctured a tyre. Heat 1 victory to Bourne, leaving him just one step away from title number 4.
It couldn't have gone better. You know, we were very, very pleased with the day. It started out a bit average off the start line in the first stage. I nearly stalled it, but got ourselves together.
Mitsubishi's Ed Ordinsky won every stage in the production car section to beat Crocker by 40 seconds. But second placing earning the young Subaru duo of Crocker and Folletta their second straight Australian title.
You obviously have to look at the overall picture and make sure you do the job, which you know, gives you the best prospects into the future. And that was the championship, and that's what we had to do.
Simon Evans' run to victory in Formula 2 looked certain when rival Brett Middleton lost 30 seconds after a slide. But Evans struck disaster on the final stage of the day. He punctured a tyre and fell to third in the small car class behind Brett Middleton and Lee Peterson. It was Middleton who now held the championship advantage.
It's been a nice result for what was a day with a pretty sick driver.
Neil Bates had no other option than to attack the second heat of the Saxon Safari. His only hope was to win the stage and force Bourne into error. Despite one anxious moment, Bates held a 10-second break over Possum Bourne. Ed Ordinsky may have lost the chance to win the production car title. The race now was for pride, and he opened a 10-second lead. Simon Evans, fully aware that any mistake could cost him the Formula 2 title, but he continued to drive the only way he knew how, establishing a break over Brett Middleton. Neil Bates was on maximum attack on the long stages around the Styx River, pulling out to a 20-second lead. For the second time in the season, a split decision. Bates winning Heat 2 after Bourne took the opening leg.
You know, the whole year's been extremely tight, and obviously it's disappointing not to win, but, you know, full credit to Possum and the boys. They've done a great job.
The result, Possum Bourne and Craig Vincent, champions for the 4th straight year.
To be honest, and it sounds a bit silly, but the team won the rally. You know, the car was pretty knocked around. They worked their guts out. They went from start to back, worked their way through everything because they wanted to give me a car that would give no problem. And spot on, this is for them.
Just 8 points separated first and second. Subaru also collecting third place outright with Cody Crocker. For the first time, Ed Ordinsky achieved a clean sweep of heats over Crocker in the production class.
This weekend and the whole season, you know, it's a pity we only had 3 events against him, but next season's shaping up to be a beauty.
The final point score had the Subaru team on 228, ahead of Ordinsky, who'd contested just 3 rounds. David Hills rounding off a consistent year with third place. Martin Lintott and Tony Jackson showed they will be a force in 2000 in the Windscreens O'Brien Privateers Cup by winning. In the series standings, Stuart Reid and Michelle Murphy took the Windscreens O'Brien Privateers Cup from their hospital beds, ahead of Hills, with John and Damien Long third. With Saturday's tyre dramas behind him, Simon Evans claimed victory in Heat 2, ahead of Brett Middleton and Volkswagen teammate Jason Slott. Evans had achieved his first Sanyo Formula 2 Cup title by just 10 points from Middleton, Slott third.
It's a wonderful thing. Winning for Volkswagen. It's the first time they've won something in the Australian Championship, and Brett really put the pressure on with his win yesterday, and we ended up with a 4th, and we had to go for it today. It was simple, and I had nothing to lose. If we had a DNF, we still would have been second in the championship, so it was just all out.
The final rally of the year would be the big one, Telstra Rally Australia. The fight with international teams was to decide the manufacturer's title.
Put in here with 3 great Tasmanians side by side. But he's going to
We're out here drinking beer without care.
a second, I'll help you out and make you into a real Tasmanian. Now he's a Tasmanian with 2 edges.
Telstra Rally Australia is the final event of the 1999 Australian Rally Championship, and it brings together the best teams in the world. Running alongside the World Championship teams is the toughest test for Australian rally crews. For Neil Bates, a good preparation had him full of confidence that he would achieve a top-placed finish.
Obviously, it's the last event for the year, so it'd be nice to have a good result and go into next season with a very positive outlook.
Possumbourne was after the same result, but he was also mindful of the importance of the Australian Manufacturers' Championship.
It will be difficult, you know. First of all, we're going to try and beat Batesy, and then we want to redeem ourselves well and get a good overall result. And we also won the Australian Manufacturers' Championship, so a hell of a lot of pressure on a good result.
The fantastic battle between Ed Ordinsky and Cody Crocker had now become a 3-way tussle. Michael Guest was back after 5 events in the World Championship.
I think there's probably 8 cars that can win here. Cody's had a fantastic year, and Ed certainly hasn't lost any of his speed.
I think it's probably the toughest Group N field ever assembled. I've said that here a few times, but Australia always attracts the best Group N guys.
Yeah, Ed and Michael Guest will be going very fast, and well, I'd like to be on their pace. I'm not going to say that I'm going to win or anything because it's sort of getting overconfident. I'm quietly confident we'll do pretty well, and I'm hoping for a good result.
The opening Langley Park Superstage brought major dramas for Stephen Shepherd and Dale Moscott, as well as Australian Sanyo Cup champion Simon Evans and co-driver Ross Runnels.
Jesus Christ.
Also untidy was Possumbourne.
Careful.
Neil Bates was super smooth in his Corolla, setting fastest time amongst Australian Rally Championship competitors by just under 2 seconds from Bourne. Leg 1 continued the next morning, but the opening stage of the day, York Railway, brought about the demise of Possumbourne. A broken cam belt finished Bourne and Craig Vincent's Rally Australia hopes after just 6 kilometres. Subaru's hold on the manufacturer's title was suddenly in doubt.
It's going to be important for Cody to get a finish now for manufacturers, but hey, he's still got to go out and have his own rally and race and take his opportunity against the internationals, and I'm pretty sure that that's the opportunity that Subaru will give him, and just, you know, don't go silly, but look for a good result.
Although aware of Bourne's problems, Neil Bates attacked the back-to-back Muresk stages, but he was more than aware that he had a problem as well.
The engine's got a miss. Left 5 over 2 jumps.
A minor electrical fault was cured at the next service area, and Bates was back on maximum attack.
Yeah, we had an engine misfire, but we're seeing to fix that now, and it's going really well. Last stage was quite good, a pretty hot and difficult stage, but we got a reasonably good time in there.
Dean Herridge's WRX held a small lead in the production car section after the Langley Park stage, but it was Cody Crocker who jumped into the lead on York Railway. Ed Ordinsky is a master of Rally Australia, and he slipped into a slender 2-second lead after 6 stages from both Guest and Crocker. The 2-time national champion struggling with gearbox problems. Left with no choice, Crocker's crew changed the gearbox at the next service. The extra time cost him 40 seconds in penalties. Guest also incurred a 10-second penalty for leaving the service area late, but he was full of confidence on his home event. That confidence was shattered on the very next stage, Kev's. The Subaru rolling out of the event after a collision with a massive boulder.
It's just a tightening right-hand bend here, and we weren't too fast into it, and we've just come round on the line, and there's a huge rock there, and whether it's been dislodged, and it was just sitting out on the line, and we've just clipped that, and it's sent the car over, and it's finished up, rolled over a couple of times, and ended up in the scrub here.
Simon Evans began the day in 82nd place following his roll at Langley Park. He attacked the opening leg stages, and despite some anxious moments, he quickly climbed the leaderboard. His main target would be teammate Jason Slott, who led the class. By midway through the opening leg, he had climbed more than 30 places.
Yeah, well, we're finally getting up to the pace of the world teams, and we're not really that far behind. I'm only getting us by about a quarter to half a second a kilometre.
The afternoon stages of the opening leg would belong to Neil Bates and Coral Taylor. The decision to chase down the World Rally Championship crews would see them set quicker times than drivers who compete across the globe. Bates and Taylor's best times were set on some of the most difficult stages of the event. On the 30-kilometre Helena stage, Bates was 8th quickest overall. The pace was on. Crocker's deficit to Ordinsky was turned into a 22-second lead after Ordinsky ran wide and punctured a tyre.
Tyre into 6 left. 11, 12 k's to go. We'll do it.
He was one of 10 drivers who punctured on the Helena stage. Dean Herridge decided to stop and change the wheel, costing valuable time. Simon Evans' charge in Sanyo Formula 2 continued. He overhauled Volkswagen teammate Jason Slott before Slott and Will Logan retired with suspension damage. No mistakes on the final Langley Park stage, as Evans finished the day in 23rd position after starting in 82nd. A marvellous effort. The final Langley Park stage on leg 1 gave all the co-drivers the chance to reflect on a tough opening day.
I think the objective was to keep out of trouble, and that's what we've done where others have got into trouble.
The pace has been extremely hot, and we thought we had a nice pace that was going along very well.
It's been a massive day of carnage out there today, especially in our Group N field. There's been a lot of retirements through both crashes and mechanical failures.
The cars ran strongly all day, and the tyres have worked really well. I mean, everything has been really good for us.
Neil Bates finished the opening leg in 9th place outright and well in front of the Australian section. His decision to continue to charge had caught the attention of all the leading crews. There was little consultation between crew members before deciding to once again chase down the World Championship regulars on leg 2. Dry conditions continued on day 2 of Telstra Rally Australia. Neil Bates jumped out of the blocks on the opening stages. Running 11th on the road, the Corolla was enjoying a cleaner run as all the loose gravel had been swept from the surface by the leading crews. Bates was consistently setting times amongst the World Championship regulars. The Corolla and its Michelin tyres showing incredible strength on the hard roads.
Haven't had any tyre problems at all. The Michelin's have been great, and we've had moose on some of the long stages, so hopefully that shouldn't be a problem.
Ed Ordinsky set his sights on Cody Crocker in the production car section. It was an aggressive attack. On the opening Murray Pines and Harvey Weir stages, Ordinsky grabbed back 5 seconds on the Impreza to trail by 14. Crocker's lead was slashed to just over 6 seconds on the next stage. Then Ordinsky moved to the front, an 8-second lead, after setting a blistering time on the 35-kilometre Stirling East stage.
He was travelling hard, you know, it was the long one. I really only managed to get a bit of an edge on him there.
He was about 19 seconds behind us going into this morning stages. We've done 4 now, and he's now 10 seconds in front.
Third place in the production car section was held by Dean Herridge, also in a Subaru. Simon Evans' charge up the leaderboard continued on the opening stages of Leg 2, with times at the level of world teams and a top Australian result, the goal. The Golf driver was on the attack in the Sanyo F2 Cup section. But then he rolled again, and only for a moment, the rally seemed over.
What are you doing, Ross? Oh, sorry. What's I doing?
Running wide on a corner, and Ross just sort of grabbed my arm as I was going around, and I said, "What are you doing?" And then we just slid around a bit further and up the embank, and over she went. You just broke the concentration for a second, and then next thing you're over. Just rolled it back onto its wheels. And the theory of this rally is to finish, isn't it? So, yeah, we're definitely proving the strength. She's a good car. We'll be there at the end.
While checking that everything was in working order, he left the road once more a few hundred metres up. The total time lost was around 9 minutes. The 45-kilometre Wellington Dam stage was the first test of the afternoon. Neil Bates and Coral Taylor were within seconds of the leading teams during the opening kilometres, but then one mistake on a tight section ended their rally.
It just, as I say, just literally tipped up on its side, and I thought it was going to come back down, then it just fell over like it was ever so slow.
This now meant the battle between Ed Ordinsky and Cody Crocker for the production car section had become the fight for first Australian crew and for the Australian manufacturer's title. Crocker attacked Wellington Dam, setting a time 6.5 seconds quicker than Ordinsky to trail by just 1.8 seconds. Ordinsky grabbed back 5 of those seconds on the 16-kilometre Brunswick stage. The final forest stage of the day was a second run over Murray Pines. Ordinsky attacked, but with 2 kilometres remaining, he hit a rock and punctured a tyre.
Then 10 left, right.
Crocker should have taken advantage, but he found the same rock. The damage, however, was far beyond that of a flat tyre. With 128 kilometres to the final Langley Park stage of the day and no service allowed, Crocker and Greg Folletta tried to drive on the damaged wheel. Despite the confidence of the Subaru team that it would make it back to Perth on time, local police thought otherwise, stopping the car.
I'm not letting you on that thing. Sure.
The actual bottom of the strut's actually broken off from the upright itself, so it's just going to the wheel's just going to fall into the guard, so it's not really going to go anywhere at all. So we've worn out one tyre, pretty much there's no rubber left, and now we're stopped. We can't go anywhere, and so that's it.
This left Ordinsky in front by 6 minutes from Dean Herridge, with Martin Lintott now moving into third. Simon Evans' eventful Leg 2 continued in the afternoon. The rollover in the previous stage had damaged the door sills, and dust began to fill the cabin.
All those boys in the TV camera can see. Good luck now. Left 2.5, right 2.
Then a fuel pipe came loose, forcing Evans to stop and repair it.
Let's fix it. Oh, okay. Yeah, bloody hose. Oh, good. We've got the tools. Yeah, just a line off.
A sprint rally had become an endurance trial. The VW crew managed to complete the stage and the entire leg, finishing the day 31st outright and the first Australian F2 car. Andrew Hannigan was in second place, while a strong and reliable run by Proton had its cars in third place, with Matthew Knox and teammate Bill Hayes in eighth. The final leg of the 1999 Telstra Rally Australia was held around the Bunnings Forest complex east of Perth. Although there were only 4 stages, the total was more than 100 of the hardest kilometres. Simon Evans stretched the legs of the VW Golf on the final day, once again setting times among the works Formula 2 teams from Europe. If not for the rollovers on the opening stage and Stirling East on day 2, he would have secured a top place finish among those Formula 2 cars.
We didn't think we'd get it in the end, did it the hard way, but it topped off the year for sure, and finishing a World Championship rally for the first time is a big bonus.
Second place in the Sanyo Cup went to Andrew Hannigan, Stuart Waters third. One driver with a strong finishing record at Rally Australia is Perth local Jackie Dines. She was not only first female driver home, but also the first Group A car, finishing 23rd outright. There was no stopping Ed Ordinsky. The multiple production car winner at Rally Australia secured top place for Australia and finished second in the overall Group N standings against the toughest competition the class has ever seen at this event. Ordinsky the winner from Dean Herridge, Martin Lintott in third.
We were never out of the leading group. You know, if I hadn't got that puncture on Helena, who knows what the result may have been. You can never what if, but we were there. We were always in the top few, and it's a great effort for Mitsubishi Rally Art to have brought the car up to speed so quickly.
Ordinsky's win at Rally Australia secured the Australian manufacturer's title for Mitsubishi, just 1.5 points ahead of Subaru, with Toyota third. Planning for next year is now well underway. For the top crews, the year never ends, as further development will be required to achieve success in 2000. Further improvements to the cars are matched by greater professionalism by organisers and increasing commitment from sponsors. The big winners are the fans, who continue to get the best domestic rally competition in the world.